Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warns the United States could default on its debt as soon as June 1st. That is less than a month. In a letter to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Yellen writes, if Congress fails to increase the debt limit, it will cause severe hardship to American families, harm our global leadership position, and raise questions about our ability to defend our national security interests. That severe hardship Yellen is talking about is increased borrowing costs, a jump in unemployment. We're talking about millions of jobs here. Your 401k could get hit really hard. Federal benefits and salaries could be put in jeopardy. The House and Senate are in joint session for only 8 more days before the 1st of June. That deadline, President Biden has invited Congress's top leaders to a meeting on Tuesday at the White House to talk about this, the debt ceiling, what they're going to do. Kevin McCarthy has accepted that decision. So let's bring in now Congressman Khanna of California to talk about all of this. It's notable, too. We'll get to bank failures in a minute. But 2 of the big 3 bank failures we've seen since March are California banks. So thank you and good morning. Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
So given this Yellen letter, I hope everyone reads every word and pays very close attention to it, especially the decision makers in Washington. Given that we're looking at June 1st for a possible default here, if there's no deal, can you guarantee the American people we're not going to default?
Yes. I mean,
yes?
I mean, look, I don't think it would be so irresponsible. It would be a self-goal. I mean, who doesn't pay their bills? We pay our bills as Americans. It's patriotic to pay our bills, and I am confident that the President of the United States isn't going to let the country default. The Republicans are trying their best to make this an issue. I don't understand why they're acting the way they are. Just pay the bills, and then we can discuss how to reduce the deficit.
Are there spending? Well, you know that's not what Republicans say they're willing to do. So are you willing to agree to some spending cuts? McCarthy's proposal is rolling back a number of things to 2022 levels. Call it what you want, but it's a cut in what spending was going to be. Are you willing to agree to any of that to prevent a default?
I'm not willing to have a conversation under a hostage situation. When I was in Congress and Donald Trump was president, I didn't disagree. I disagreed with a lot of his policies, but I voted to raise the debt ceiling. I voted to pay our bills. If Kevin McCarthy votes to pay our bills, then we could discuss how to have deficit reduction. And in that, we could discuss spending cuts, the biggest part being the defense budget, almost $1 trillion. Why aren't we talking about any cuts there?
Even Bernie Sanders told Dana Bash in their interview this weekend, I'm willing to look at other things. There's a lot of waste in government. You're telling me there is literally not a thing you would agree to in this Republican proposal to prevent a default for the American people. Well, not a thing.
Well, they're not connected. Of course, there's a thing.
Republicans are connecting them.
Well, they're doing it irresponsibly. It's never been done before. I mean, in Donald Trump, the Democrats voted again and again to raise the debt ceiling. It's like if you have a credit card debt and as a family, would you say, look, let's just not pay the debt? Or would you say, let's pay the debt, and then we can discuss what budget cuts we should make? So it's important to realize what they're doing, and they're doing it because they don't. They want the president, the economy to not do well. I mean, people are on record saying that.
Do you think that's fair? They want the economy to not do well?
Well, I don't understand why else they're holding it hostage.
Okay. I'm going to take that as a no, that you're zero agreement to any spending cuts, even if we default.
I'm open to spending cuts conversation after we pay our bills.
Okay, so let's move on to the banks, okay? Because we just saw the 3 big U.S. banks fail since March. That is extraordinary. Do you expect more banks 2 of them in California, do you expect more banks to fail this year?
I hope not, but there I can't say with 100% confidence until, in my view, we have a guarantee on uninsured bank deposits. I mean, I've been calling for that since March. We need to make sure that we have some guarantee on these deposits.
So let's explain to people why that matters. A lot of the money that was pulled out of First Republic, which failed over the weekend, is because a lot of the accounts had more than $250,000 in them, which is the threshold for FDIC insurance now, on paper at least. You're saying take the $8 trillion of uninsured deposits in this country and fully guarantee them. Is that right?
I'm saying for the business accounts, not for the individual accounts, but for if you're a business and you have to make payroll and you're uninsured, which is about $8 trillion, for them, make sure that you're guaranteed and charge them a fee on that account so that you don't have the situation which is now happening where they're all going and putting their money in the big 4 banks in New York as opposed to the regional banks.
Gary Cohn, who was the CEO of Goldman Sachs, and then he was the top economic advisor to President Trump for a while, he disagrees with you, and here's why.
I don't agree with Congressman Khanna that we want unlimited FDIC insurance. I think that, to me, is a bit of a race to the bottom.
You had picked like 2 million, 5 million, 10 million.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some limit. At some point, you have to limit, because you don't want a total race to the bottom where, you know, the weakest bank with the weakest balance sheet in the world can offer you the highest rate of return on your deposits. And therefore, you take your deposits there because, guess what? They're insured by the federal government. That's not what we want to see.
Isn't that an important point, too?
Eric Conan's thoughtful, but he's wrong on this for two reasons. One, the FDIC itself has come out and said, let's look at having uninsured deposits insured in a major report just yesterday. Second, the shareholders are the ones that lose value. I mean, no bank is going to be sitting there saying, yeah, we should go and have shareholders wiped out to zero. Their incentive to make sure that they're responsible is the shareholders. They don't want to be wiped out. And third, we need to increase oversight over these banks. If we had oversight and shareholders, you could have the banks still be responsible. Like you have banks actually in New York that are responsible.
I want to ask you quickly about the Wall Street Journal editorial board this morning is calling out J.P. Morgan's acquisition of Silicon Valley Bank in terms of what the government has said and yet what the government has done. And J.P. Morgan won this auction. They write, Jamie Dimon, the CEO, must be smiling at the political irony. The Biden administration, which claims to hate big banks, that's the Wall Street Journal's words, not the Biden administration's words, signed off on Monday on a deal to let Mr. Dimon's J.P. Morgan Chase get bigger and even more profitable by taking over failing First Republic. But didn't the government need J.P. Morgan to do that?
It wasn't ideal. If we had guaranteed the deposits earlier, we wouldn't have come to this. But by the time that this happened, we had no choice. The FDIC has a mandate to have the lowest cost resolution, and they have to look at private capital. That's what the law requires. And so in these circumstances, they did the right thing. Do I like it? No. Do I like the fact that regional banks are being bought up and consolidated? No. But in this situation, they did the right thing.
So we're in a situation where the biggest banks are the only ones that can save us?
We're in a situation, if we're not guaranteeing some of these deposits, that we're going to need private capital. And, of course, a lot of that private capital is on Wall Street.
You're here for some meetings with those big bankers, so come back and let us know how it all goes. Ro Khanna, thank you.
Thank you.